Caelid is home to the poison swamp we all know and love, but did you know it's also home to not Caelid? Yeah, it turns out this parasitic tick feeding off Caelid's life force is actually an entirely separate zone to Caelid. It's called Dragonbarrow, and it's home to the Cookie Monster, but if he took an illegal Schedule 9 narcotic referred to as Death Root instead of eating cookies. It's also got the disgusting bloated corpse of a massive creature and some pale guys who hang out in the basement of an abandoned high-rise. So join me in this video as we find out what the deal with Dragonbarrow is. There are two main ways of reaching Dragonbarrow. One is simply riding through the decayed and diseased landscape of Australia and jumping over a gap. You can also take the subway to get to the very far end of Dragonbarrow. It is hidden in some bushes near a ruined church, which is where you usually find a subway entrance. D will actually point you towards this if you beat an incredibly difficult boss. If you choose to take this route, you will immediately be met with a very confronting sight. This is the Black Blade Kindred. It's the only boss where you can gaze directly at its privates. Naturally, this enrages it. I've always found this boss fairly interesting, because it is so easy to access its nuts at a low level, yet it has fairly late game stats.
Holy look at all this damage!
So naturally it can be fairly difficult. However, pretty much all of its moves are fairly well telegraphed, and it's not hard to dodge them at all. It's actually pretty reasonable to be able to defeat this at a low level as a result, and get a nice amount of runes, along with a peek at its nuts. However, miss me with that struggle. I got some of that New Game Plus. The interesting thing about these gargoyles is that they are actually created out of many corpses, melded together using a wax. If you look closely at their models, you can observe this. It's kind of similar to Godric's grafting and the corpse collecting of the jar guys. You even see this interesting theme of fusion when it comes to characters such as Rani, and even the main centerpiece of the entire story, Radagon and Marika. These corpse wax golems are usually created to serve a purpose, and this one has two purposes. The first is letting its nuts hang. The second is to guard a specific someone. It drops two weapons that hint at this purpose. Such is the mark of those who serve Maliketh, the Black Blade. Now, for what purpose could Maliketh require guards? Maybe he is wanted dead. Kind of like the sponsor of this video, Wanted Dead. It's a killing game like Elden Ring, where you kill a lot of guys, only the main difference is you are strapped. At any point during a combo, you can pull out a gun and just shoot the guy. The main way you counter those unblockable attacks that games like this love to throw at you is by simply shooting them. However, like in real life, not every problem can be solved with the bullet. So you have a sword which can be used to pull off parries on pretty much everything. There is also a fairly involved skill tree which allows you to unlock fancy new ways of killing guys. And hey, if you're a big fan of the 1983 self-titled album by new German wave band Nina, just like I am, you can take a break from all the action to sing along to the hit song 99 Red Balloons from it. But you can also just sit there in silence and eat ramen if that is more your style. Currently, 110 Industries is offering an astounding 60% discount on this absolutely wild game. This is the largest discount the game has ever seen, and it's only available for a limited time. This special offer is applicable on PlayStation 4 and 5 until December 20th. Wanted Dead is also available on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One. So why hesitate any longer? Use my link in the description and snatch your copy today, and embrace the ultra-violent mayhem. To me, Dragonbarrow as a zone really epitomizes From Software's new design considerations that have come with Elden Ring. As you are traversing it, you are always presented with choices like, do you go down this path and fight the scarlet rot infested tree that has a really pronounced behind for some reason? Miyazaki, was it really necessary for the tree to be so Mass Effect? Or alternatively, do you go down the other path where for some reason random balls just appear and Indiana Jones you to death. I think we just have to assume that these were traps left by some long forgotten mage who just really liked balls for some reason. It does make sense because at the end of the path is a mage's tower where you are presented with another choice. Do you cross the bridge with the massive dragon or the smaller bridge with hostile malnourished children on the other side? Malnourished children are easier to battle, but on the other hand, this dragon is From Software's patent-pending flame-throwing bridge dragon. In terms of usual bridge dragons, it doesn't really stop you from crossing at all. In comparison, the Hellkite Drake stops you from crossing the bridge, and that's not even a dragon. It is literally just Drake after he has had too much red cordial and needs to settle down for nap time. You see, the dragons in Dragonbarrow actually fled Caelid after it got overtaken by the Scarlet Rot, so they are absolutely not at the peak of their strength, which explains why this so-called Flying Dragon Greyll is getting absolutely cleared by some guy from Canada. You can get a good look at just how far the dragons have fallen if you head over to Fort Faroth. Just outside of it you will find this massive festering corpse of a dragon that is somehow still alive. This is Greyoll, and she is basically the mother of all the modern dragons we find in the lands between. Oh, so that's why it's called Greyoll's Dragonbarrow. However, there is a difference between those dragons and ancient ones like Lanciax and Fortisax. That being, the modern ones have wings fused to their arms, while the ancient ones don't. Greyoll is one of the modern ones, so we can assume that she was probably the first of this new kind. This change in biology most likely occurred because the Erd Tree came to the lands between and supplanted the original dragon civilization, which resulted in them losing some of their power as time passed. So basically, Greyoll is the last leader of a dying race that has been inflicted with a terrible disease, which will soon claim its life. Its only comfort is that it is slowly dying surrounded by its children, so naturally we are going to kill all of Greyoll's descendants. It's okay though, we are still the good guys, because whenever you ride past Greyoll, it roars and gives you an annoying looking red debuff. This is reason enough to kill anything. However, if you need a better reason to kill anything, Dragonbarrow has one, and it involves the coolest thing in the entire game, a really big pot guy. This is easily one of the most inspiring views in the entire game. Who is this pot guy, and why is he so big? The answer to this question requires you to undertake a massive journey. Even though he is located in Dragonbarrow, you must return to Limgrave in order to access him. Deep in the misty woods, you will find the elevator to Seophra River. I assume it's actually pronounced something like Shivra, but hours of playing this game have reinforced the incorrect pronunciation within my mind. It's a highly advanced form of Anglo-centric brain rot. This is a very beautiful river, but for our purposes it is a purely transitory area. Of course, on the way, we still get to sample the local archer guys. Their existence fills me with joy. And arrows. At the very opposite end of the zone is a platform with an elevator. You can unlock it using 2 stone sword keys, and it takes you back up to Dragonbarrow, nestled in the valley which leads to the jar guy. What's interesting is that on the map, it looks like you can get here from the Caelid Death Swamp. However, if you try that, you just get a dead end with a cliff, and a ball that farts the mysteries of the cosmos at you.
Fragrance of lilacs.
Once you return to the elevator and ride past a bunch of landmine balls, you meet some giant archers. Ordinarily, these guys are no issue, because they are whacked out on horse tranquilizers and take ages to load their gun. However, one is placed in view of the big pot guy, so you have to take him out, unless you want his annoying arrows to ruin the amazing thought-provoking conversation that you are sure to have with the pot guy. Now you are free. Anticipation swells within you. This is the biggest guy you have ever seen. There was that other big guy. He had a silly face on his chest, but it was also a sad face because his entire civilization was genocided by Marika. So he was physically big, but emotionally he was small and broken. However, this jar guy obviously is going to have a massive personality. It is literally just a jar that vibrates. We undertook that massive journey through the very depths of the lands between for a jar that vibrates. Fortunately, his righteous vibration has blessed us with some new friends to murder. These sides pull builds from random online players for you to fight. Once you destroy all of them, he vibrates again, which naturally gives you a talisman that increases your equip load. However, after this, he stops vibrating, meaning he is either sleeping or dead. How blessed are we to briefly exist within the vibrations of this sovereign and immutable god. Just behind him, you can access a PvP arena. In this one, you're allowed to use summons. However, I won't show any footage of it because I was simply too good and won the fights within seconds, so it would be really boring for you to watch. Trust me, the most visually striking structure in Dragonbarrow is the Divine Tower of Caelid. Yeah, imagine your biggest tourist attraction being attributed to the neighboring country, sort of like New Zealand and Australia. Does that mean New Zealand is the Dragonbarrow to Australia's Caelid? The entire tower is basically those 2D platforming sections from Super Mario Odyssey, where it wraps around a 3D object. Only you ride a horse. Once you get to the top, you have two options. The first is to continue climbing up, enjoy the views, and cash in the coupon you got from Radahn's corpse, or descend deeper into the arcane platforming challenges. The key difference is instead of jumping, you are falling. There are so many drops here where it feels like you should not be able to survive, and yet time and time again, you just don't die. You are basically a cat. At the bottom is an elevator which takes you back to the top, and that's it. Unless you feel the strong urge to climb around every visible ledge, because right at the very bottom, on the opposite side of the elevator, you will find this really long drop. There is no way you should survive this unless you have those moonshoe things that break people's ankles. Of course, this breaks your ankles. Down here in the basement, you can find Monkey D Godskin. He can be a little tough once he enters Gear 5, but he is no match for spamming attacks in a blind panic. He was guarding the sword used by the Gloamide Queen. Now, she might sound like a goth chick, and now that I think about it, she probably is, because all of her followers use black magic and they are really pale. She used the power of destined death to attempt to kill the gods. Of course, she was bad at the game, so she got filtered by Maliketh, who then took the power of destined death and stood guard over it outside of time. What's interesting is that we end up taking the rune of death to destroy the Erd Tree and the same gods that she clashed with, so in a way we inherit her will and also become a goth chick. What's interesting is how her sword is enshrined so close to the very canine that killed her. It's a testament to how washed the modern day Gurranq is when compared to the Maliketh that defeated the Gloamide Queen. Yeah, that coked out cookie monster is actually Maliketh.
Feed me more. Feed me more. Death, bring more. I must have more. I must consume more.
Such are the tragic results of a death root addiction. This is the latest designer narcotic to plague the lands between. It's grown from the subterranean corpse of Godwyn the Golden as its roots spread throughout the world. The cookie monster offers to teach you bestial incantations if you literally feed into his addiction. So naturally you need to find some death root dealers. These are those random boat guys you can find in worn down dilapidated inner city areas, and just like in real life, you beat them up and steal their belongings. At one point, he will actually ingest too much death root and attack you in a craze. In order to stop this, you need to severely injure him. I have no idea if this is how From Software believes rehab works in real life. It's actually somewhat honorable what Gurranq is doing, because by consuming the death root, he can reconstitute the rune of death within himself, and make up for his failure to protect it from Ranni. Of course, we don't actually care about this because we also stole the rune of death from him. Eventually, if you indulge him enough times, he will presumably OD on death root, but before doing so, he will give us a really shiny rock. So that's nice. I honestly don't know what he expected by consuming a substance literally called Deathroot. So what's the deal with Dragonbarrow? The deal is that there isn't one. Compared to the many other locations in Elden Ring, Dragonbarrow is simply deal-less. It has no deal. It's basically just where a corpse of a dragon decided to lay down, and where a washed-up Sesame Street star picked up the pipe. Malnourished children prepare ambushes along its roads. Its only tourist attraction is an abandoned high-rise tower home to a cult that worships goth chicks. Dragonbarrow is the place where dreams die. Now this might seem depressing, and that's because it is, but on a more optimistic note, your presence resolves all these situations, because you literally kill all of them. Now that I say it out loud, that's not optimistic. It's really a dark reflection of our modern times. Dragonbarrow is a representation of the decay inherent to human civilization. You know what? While we are talking about representations of the decay inherent to human civilization, in the past month I have started live streaming on Twitch. Feel free to follow my channel. It would look great on your resume. I also have started posting the VODs of some of these streams to a separate channel. I'll have a link to both of these in the description. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe to my channel. It would look great on your resume.